Filters, do we really need them anymore? With most filter effects being easily replicated on most image editing applications on the computer, is there any point in putting filters on the camera? Well, the answer is yes, and there's several reasons why. The first reason is that not all effects from filters on the camera can be replicated on the computer. The most important ones really can't be replicated that well. And the second point is, even those filters that can be replicated, it's really a question of whether you want to spend more time doing it right on the camera or having to spend time on the computer afterwards trying to simulate effects that you could have done at the time you shot the picture. Now, the world of filters is quite confusing. Basically, there are two different types of filter. There are the round filters, which screw into the front of your lens. On the lens there's a thread and the filter just screws in. And then there are the sheet filters, which are square or rectangular, and they fit into a holder, and the holder screws on the lens. Let's talk about round filters first. Now, round filters have some advantages over the square type. The main one being that you don't need all the holder and paraphernalia to attach them to your lens. You just make sure that you've got the right thread and you screw it onto the front of the lens using the thread here. The drawback is you've got more than one lens of different threads, is that the filter will only fit the lens of the same size. You can't then use that filter on a bigger lens with a wider diameter filter thread. You need a bigger filter for that lens too. Now, the round filters tend to be made from high quality optical glass if you buy the good ones, with brass or solid metal mounts. The square or sheet filters tend to be made of resin, but if you buy the good quality ones, that's a very high quality resin, so you really shouldn't see any difference on your images. Now, a lot of professional photographers favour the Lee system, which works in a similar principle. You get the ring which fits your lens, and you get the holder, and then the ring goes into the holder like so, and then the filters slide in. Same principle. Now, which one should you buy? That's the question you're asking. Well, the answer is it depends what filter you're using, because some filters actually work better in the circular format and other filters work better in the rectangular or square format. I'm going to talk about each one in turn. If you only ever buy one filter, make it a polarizing filter. The effect of a polarizer really cannot be replicated on software on the computer, and the effect on your pictures in the right picture can be really dramatic. What it does is it reduces reflections on different surfaces within your scene, not just on shiny things like mirrors and glass and chrome, but on things like foliage, which you wouldn't expect there to even be reflections. You can't really see them, don't notice them, but the polarizer does. When you put the polarizer on your camera and rotate the front element, the saturation of the picture is increased dramatically. Blue skies become bluer, foliage becomes greener and richer. Things like reds, whether it be a painted car or a tomato, colours within your scene become that much richer and more saturated. If you're buying a polarizer, you'll notice that they're not all the same. They all do the same thing, but some of them are thinner. If you're using wide-angle lenses, for example, a deep polarizer like this one with a really thick rim on it may cause some vignetting on the scene, which means the edges may become visible in the frame. Some manufacturers, Hoya, this is a Hoya Pro Digital series, have produced a lower profile polarizing filter so that they don't cause that problem when using wide angle lenses, unless of course you're using really wide angle lenses. The other round filter I have here is a UV filter. Now, UV filters filter out, as the name implies, the ultraviolet part of the spectrum, which you often get at high altitudes and on hazy days, that kind of bluish tint to your pictures. Now, with modern digital cameras, have a lot of filtering in the processing to get rid of that anyway, and most people use these filters as lens protectors because of course it's much cheaper to replace one of these if it gets damaged than it is to replace your lens. If you're exposing the camera for the foreground of your scene, often the sky will be overexposed, which means it'll end up being washed out. Of course, if you set the exposure to record the full colour and tone and cloud detail of the sky, your foreground will be underexposed. It's simply there's just too great a contrast range between the ground and the sky to expose both of them properly. So this is where the ND Grad filter comes in. What the ND Grad does, as you can see, it's grey at the top and clear at the bottom. Now, this grey is if it's a neutral density grad, will be perfectly neutral. There will be no colour bias in that picture, so all it will do is darken that part of the picture in which it appears while leaving the clear part to make no effect on the picture. So it's pretty obvious what that does. By attaching this into the holder and putting it over your lens, you can darken the sky whilst leaving the ground unaffected. Now, ND Grads come in several different strengths, 1-stop, 2-stop or 3-stop being the most common ones, and the one that you use really depends on the brightness range in your scene. The way to do that is take a light meter reading from the ground and from the sky to work out how many stops difference there is between the ground and the sky, and if there is, say, 3 stops difference, then, well, it's not recommended that you balance them up so they're exactly the same, but certainly a 1 or 2 stop difference between the ground and the sky is ideal. So if, say, you want a 1 stop difference between the sky and the ground, and there is a 3 stop difference, and you take a meter reading, then if you use a grad filter which has 2 stops of power, which will either be called an ND times 4 or a 0.6, depending on which brand of filter you buy, that will balance the exposure for the ground and the sky. The other thing to decide is whether you want a soft edge grad or a hard edge grad. As you can see, the graduation from where it goes dark to where it goes light is quite softly graduated here, and you can get them with a harder graduation or a softer graduation, and that depends on the kind of scene that you're photographing. As the more you stop the lens down, the sharper that graduation appears in the picture. You can get grad filters in the round format, but frankly they're a waste of time, because one of the most important things that you need to do with a grad filter is to be able to move it up and down in the holder so that when you're composing the picture you can align the graduation with the horizon. If you've got a circular grad filter, you can't move it, so you're kind of stuck with composing the picture according to where the filter has placed its graduation. So this is one example where really, if you're looking at grads, you need a sheet grad and a holder.